Karen really was the impetus to start, and you can't be married to a potter and not want to get your hands dirty. I think after she took the first elective pottery class she could take at Michigan State University, I was married to a potter. I said, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to have a studio. And so we bought a used wheel and a used kiln. The sign went up and people started coming in, and it became apparent that we could build a business out of it.
From as early as I can remember, I was working in the shop and either helping out or helping customers or learning the way of the business.
Karen had immediately started to develop a little following when she was making pots even before we came over to Petoskey. As the business grew, we grew with it.
My parents would tell you, when they were budding artists, they realized very early on that if they wanted to make a living, they were going to have to do it as retailers. So there grew the retail establishment that became Sturgeon River Pottery. The business has seen a lot of expansion pretty much every year since its inception. We started with physical expansion on site with a small little one-room store to a two-room store to a three-room store, et cetera, to now having 4.5 acres on US 31. A couple years ago, we started Little Traverse Tile Works. Then most recently, we opened another store in downtown Petoskey, also focused on cool niche craft and fine art. The Bank of Northern Michigan was integral to our expansion into downtown Petoskey. They were partners in the process in as much as they were there literally on the day we opened the doors to congratulate us and make sure that everything went smoothly. Kind of helped that they were a block and a half away. We were able to walk around the corner.
We've had banking relationships from early on, but we were so small and we really didn't use much banking as far as commercial banking. When our friend Bob Blair started Bank of Northern Michigan, as soon as they started, we just decided to go with them, and then we've had just a great relationship with them through all these years. We were friends. Our kids played ball together. I do remember we'd had a conversation, and it was before all that transpired, and I said, have you ever thought about starting a bank in Petoskey? And originally he said, well, I haven't given that thought. And it was a couple years later, and we were sitting in the stands at the baseball field. Now, I remember this part. Our boys were playing baseball, and he said something to me. He said, you remember we had that conversation about starting a bank? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I think I'm gonna. Would you like to be an investor? And I said, yeah, I would. and we did, and so we've been a customer ever since.
Your banker earns your trust because they're knowledgeable, they're timely, and they're able to get things done that allow an entrepreneur to have access to capital when they need it. I'm certainly impressed that my bankers seem to have a grasp of all those different levels, from knowing what it takes to be a small startup entrepreneur to knowing what it takes to run a $50, $100 million manufacturing business. So I know these are good people. They work very hard. They're very respectful of us as a family business. And frankly, I know that I'm going to have a long-standing relationship with them, whether they're my bankers or not.
Also, the fact that we're now in the second generation. Our son Dana has really taken over. And having a bank that you know well and you know the people makes that transition seamless. It was just really, it was good for us, good for Dana, good for the bank. It was so helpful to have that kind of personal relationship to get that accomplished without a lot of red tape and without a lot of fuss and fuss.
I plan to be here for a long time. My bankers plan to be here for a long time. So it's easy for us to trust that we're going to have this relationship for quite a while.
It's been great. People who don't know small town banking maybe don't appreciate the fact that you can do business over the kitchen counter. That your banker comes out and brings some rolls from Johann's and you have a cup of coffee, and there's not much you can't accomplish over the kitchen table. I think banks and business people don't necessarily want to cross the line where it's personal and not business per se, but it's just easier to do business with your friends. Always has been.